word capability is pretty popular this year, hence the name of the podcast. Different people are using it to mean different things, and most of the time, whoever's listening is left to figure out just exactly what it means. So, for this episode of the Naftiko Capabilities Podcast, I sat down with Sebastien from Microsoft, who's been building on top of Microsoft 365 Copilot as a product manager for quite some time. He's got a working definition that survives contact with real users of the API who are actually building things. We talk about what a capability is and what context engineering actually looks like in practice, and then where skills fit into the picture.
That's
Forgot.
perfect. Yeah, it's okay. So I'm Seb. I'm a product manager on the Copilot extensibility team at Microsoft, the M365 Copilot extensibility team. And we basically build the agent platform, anything that allows folks to build, use, eval, train, whatever agents in their experience. I'm coming from a very strong um, API background. I used to work on the Microsoft Graph, one of the biggest enterprise API that is available out there. And that's how I transitioned to Copilot, because basically Copilot is one big agent that exposes all the richness of the data that lives inside Microsoft Graph.
Yeah.
And now I'm really focusing on the devs that are building agents. So that's really what I'm doing at Microsoft. So that's a good question. So I think what I mean here is when you are in a product, Microsoft 365 Copilot being the product, um, you want to be able to use and be productive using the features, using the different aspects of the product in a native way. You don't want to go and jump to another product, or you don't want to go elsewhere to get the job done. So inside Copilot, you have the ability to talk, to chat with M365 Copilot, but you also have the ability to chat with agents. And these agents are, you can see them as scoped and specialized version of Copilot that is really geared towards I wouldn't say a single goal, but a very specific set of goals. It's not an agent that you're going to go and talk to for, I don't know, getting your summary of your latest emails. No, this one is for getting you productive because there's an outage on your IT systems and you want to understand what's happening and what you should do. So it's really, really specialized. So as a developer, you can bring these agents natively in the experience of M365 Copilot. So instead of building yet another portal where you would connect to Copilot to show that, no, you're using the product because that's where we see more and more people using like that native products. There are millions of people using Copilot on a daily basis, and we want them to stay there to get the full benefit of the entire suite of capabilities and feature that we have. So as a dev, you produce new agents that are considered, I would say, native capabilities to Copilot. Yeah. And that's why there's a secret sauce that lives in Microsoft 365 Copilot, and it's how all the data that lives in your data estate, in your tenant, is all connected. It's not just like there's a doc and that doc is kind of in a silo, right? That's not what it is at all. That doc is connected to people, and these people are connected to emails, and these emails are connected to other people, and these other people have tasks, and these tasks might have a Teams conversation. And when you search for something, we do take all of that into consideration before crafting you a response back. So when you think about it, if you had to build that yourself, you would have to rebuild all of that like specialized logic, and that's what kind of work IQ gives you in a single endpoint. So you can see that as a I don't think I would call that like a utility endpoint, but it's like a pre AI endpoint. It gives you pre-summarized, pre-indexed everything is all semantically through vector databases and so on, and it gives you back that result. And that's something that I think is a big plus in context engineering, because you don't have to create these data points and these connections. It's all there for you in the system.
That is the abstract version. Here's what it looks like when you wire it up. Sebastian talks more about worker IQ as a context engineering pattern.
So there's two ways to contextualize work IQ. So the first one is good context engineering. So there are like basically the way you prompt work IQ will be able to let Copilot know what you really care about, and it's going to take your intent and do a semantic search or a semantic match to the content that lives inside your Microsoft 365 data estate. So you can just say, go get my latest meeting and do a summary, which is a very, very, very simple prompt that you can send. And Copilot could actually interpret it in so many ways, depending on how it feels on that day, usually. But if you're very specific on what you're looking for, what's the outcome, what's the format, what's the tone, what's the kind of for what's the audience of that thing, then it's going to be able to do that. So that's kind of the first way to achieve that experience, is to do some great context engineering. We can take a lot of tokens in, and we're going to give you a lot of tokens back with that. So that is, I think, one great way to start that. What we're seeing is we're seeing people crossing the boundaries between the productivity chat, like M365 Copilot as an experience, but any other chat experience or AI connected experience, because WorkIQ is actually exposed as an MCP server. So you plug WorkIQ in any type of AI experience you think about. For me, where I'm using the most is in the Copilot CLI, not even in VS Code, but just in my terminal, where I have WorkIQ available at all time, and I can just say, using WorkIQ, do this, or using WorkIQ, then here's a big query, and then I can kind of bridge those gaps on a daily basis. The other way to scope WorkIQ, you remember I said that devs can bring native capabilities as agents inside Copilot. You can do the exact same thing with WorkIQ. So you can not only talk to Copilot, but you can also talk to a specific agent of Copilot. So then this is really interesting, because then WorkIQ becomes a swarm of agents that you can actually say, okay, I have all these agents. Ask the same question to these 5 agents. Get me a summarize of that, and get like a set of summary of that, and give it back to me so I can do my work and have more context here. And when you do that in a great AI connected experience, either into a chat, in ChatGPT, in Cloud Code, in the Copilot CLI, you really get some really, really beneficial data from it. So again, it's a little bit of a, I think it's still, I would still consider that like context engineering, because then you're gonna call the same MCP server X number of times to get more content, but it's a lot more precise. And when you talk to your kind of service ticket agent, you know that the context that will come back from it is very, 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 very square. I just want that, and that's the only thing that's gonna come back from it. So now, when you're you know how people are using like a fleet of coding agents to create their apps. Now they have like 10 windows, 10 terminals open. But you could actually also see that swarm of agents for productivity to give you as much context as possible to get you going. So it's kind of I see that as the equivalent of a fleet of agents to get productive with code, but now it's more a fleet of agents getting you productive with your real work and getting up to speed with things. So that's really how I'm thinking about these two different scopes. So we see mainly 2 types of developers. So the first type is probably the one that you would see the most, which is line of business dev. So like really built inside the enterprise. Think large financials, large retail, that want to build specialized experiences for their users that are using Microsoft 365 Copilot. So there are two ways to build today. Either you build in the product, so you come and you build capabilities that are native inside the Microsoft 365 Copilot ecosystem. So you see your capability as an agent. Your agent can talk to your line of business systems through Open API or through MCP servers. Or you can do it the other way around. You can talk to Copilot from your own systems. And that is what is being exposed as what we call the Copilot APIs. Some people might have seen the word work IQ, which is kind of bringing the context of the work that you're performing inside the context of what you're doing right now. So think a scenarios we're seeing right now that are really interesting for these type of LOB devs is, hey, I had a meeting with my boss yesterday. It was recorded. I remember nothing about it. He told me exactly what should be my task list for today. Now you are in Claude Code, you are in the GitHub CLI or the Copilot CLI, and you say, hey, yesterday I had a chat with my boss. He gave me a list of all the things I should be doing. Hey, Copilot, go do them. And then it literally talks to Work IQ, gets all the context of the conversation, go picks up the files that you need, summarizes them, and then hands it over to the dev or to the agent that would go and build that. So that is kind of one of the scenario, one of the type of dev. The second type of dev is large, medium to large ISVs. The ones that are building software for all of their customers, and they just want to meet their customers where they work. And we see that like everybody in the AI space have seen SaaS is dead. Everybody will be building their own SaaS and so on and so forth. There are some aspects of that that is true. There's some aspects of that that I challenge. But what is really key here is people will change the way they work. And that's really how we want them. So when you are in Copilot, you want to be able to say, hey, I had a chat yesterday with somebody that was about a ticket that lives in ServiceNow. Well, how do you connect these two things together? And that's what ServiceNow does. ServiceNow, for example, will build an agent that's going to automatically be installed in Copilot. And then you would be able to do agent to agent communications between, I don't know, your agent or what we call mainline or like the whole M365 Copilot experience, and we'll go get the best information from ServiceNow, summarizes it, and then give it back to you. So those are the two types of devs that are building today. The LOB devs building internal solutions, and the ISV devs building for all their customers.
One of the recurring questions when a capability and context engineering gets talked about together is where the new layer of agent skills actually lives amidst all of this. And Sebastian's answer is shorter than I expected and actually pretty useful.
And what's interesting is skills to me, I see MCPs as tools, right? Like it's different set of tools. Like you're on a workbench and you have all these tools in front of you. I'm absolutely not manual. I'm somebody that looks at it like a tool set and freaks out. So I'm not, but if you give me a guide that tells me exactly how to do things based on the thing that I want to build, maybe I'm going to use the tools. And I think that's how I see skills. Skills is like the orchestrator of all the provided tools you have. So when we build skills, there are ways to say, hey, for this workflow, call this, call this, call this. For this other workflow, it's all code based, generate the files in that shape. And then it kind of builds that developer persona. Like, okay, you take the hat, or as an agent, you take the hat of something, and then you get it done. You take the hat of another scenario, you get it done there. And that's where I think it's really interesting because it brings everything together. 100%. It is, I think this is the bridge. And I think the fact that we make it available for both type of audiences, the ones that are creating the requirements and that are spending time driving the product ecosystem and the all people with like strong product acumen that really care about the customers and outcomes and metrics and so on. And then that other type of audience, which is more the engineering type of audience that just want to get it done. And what is amazing is how as a dev you could set up like an automatic task that every day just says, hey, work IQ, I'm working on that project. What changed? What should I be made aware that will impact my day to day? And then, as long as this information is shared with you, and that's something I was actually thinking yesterday, you know how people are like information hogger, that they want to keep the information for themselves. I think in the world of AI, this is where you break the process if the information is not shared, because then it breaks the experience for engineers that don't want to be in meetings. It's a very engineering habit to say no to meetings, and I absolutely agree with that because that's where I'm coming from. But they need to know that a priority shifted, or that something changed, or that we need to do something else. And the other way around also, we need to know when an engineering decision was made that directly impacts the products, the capabilities, the features, the timeline, the integration points. And that's where I think there's a huge potential in having that business context flying around rather than just being isolated and being somewhere and then you need to go and start browsing for the right doc and the right meeting and the right notes and the right email.
You can catch the earlier conversation with Sebastian and I. It was a couple weeks ago, where he talks about Office 365 and who's building on top of it. But we've got more content to work from on Sebastian's own production work, and some of the segments you'll get to hear in future episodes. Uh, a little bit more about what Sebastian's up to, what's going on in the ecosystem, and how he sees where things are going when it comes to developer relations and reaching developers. But for now, capability, context, and skills seems like the intersection that we're all talking about.